Mr. Hegseth, I recently realized that we have something in common. I'm also a fan of Pulp Fiction. And no, the movie is not an accurate portrayal of the Bible. You know what I'm talking about. This president and his administration have claimed to be the most transparent of all time. With that in mind, I'd love to get some straightforward answers today. Some estimates show that the Trump administration's war of choice in Iran is costing taxpayers around $1 billion every day. In addition to spending taxpayer money on a war they don't want, it is also driving up costs. The cost of gas, while the cost of living is skyrocketing under this administration's policies. To me, and I assume to the American people, it is unclear why we started this war, how it will end, and what anyone gained from it. Mr. Hegseth, about how much money has been spent on this war to date, and how much more do you anticipate spending?
Well, as our comptroller laid out, the estimate is less than $25 billion at this point as far as an expenditure. And the question I would ask this committee is, what is it worth to ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, considering the radical ambitions of that regime? I mean, almost every member of this dais at some point has said, whether it was 2015,
thank you for your answer. I'll proceed to my next question. Thank you for your answer.
President Trump is the one that's willing to make sure it doesn't happen.
Supposedly, we had taken care of the nuclear capability last time around. And now this war, we're at it again, because obviously we said we did, but we didn't.
In a way that
we know,
the United States military can do.
I want to reclaim my time. We know that the cost of oil and gas has gone up as a direct result of this war, and the American people are feeling that pain at the pump. In an attempt to alleviate the high price of gas caused directly by this president, he lifted sanctions on Russian oil. The way I see it, this is a massive gift to Putin and Russia's struggling economy. Mr. Hegseth, is there any concern that easing sanctions against Russia will allow Putin to continue funding Russia's illegal war against Ukraine?
Well, we've seen Russia's and Putin's inability to make effective battlefield gains, just like their inability to defend the Maduro regime with the billions of dollars of systems the Russians sent to Venezuela in order to defend him, which were defeated in 15 minutes. So Russia's military capabilities are no match for ours.
And you don't believe easing the sanctions is helping Russia?
Well, we have the best energy team in the planet
it's just a yes or no.
White House. We're going to ensure that
this is not deja vu. It's a simple yes or no.
I understand the energy dominance that this administration has unleashed.
All right, well, I'll proceed to my next question. Strategy. Last week, it was announced that the Department of Defense is no longer requiring service members to get their annual flu shot. Now, this is an easy one for you. It's a softball. Don't screw it up. The rationale was to, and I quote, restore freedom to our joint force. This has been a requirement since 1950 because it is an effective at preventing the spread of flu among our troops. It's not some new woke requirement, as you like to lean on for much of your rhetoric. This decision is actively making our military less safe and less prepared. Mr. Hegseth, at this time, are there plans to remove the mandatory requirement of other vaccinations like measles, mumps, and polio?
We made very clear in our announcement that it applies to service members having a choice as it pertains to the flu vaccine.
Don't you think that's a little reckless?
No, I think allowing well-informed Americans who serve our country to make a choice is not reckless. And commanders will still have latitude, say, for a submarine or something else to make a decision for a unit about whether it could be mandatory in a particular circumstance. But overall, our troops have earned the right to be able to choose about something like that related to their health.
Mr. Hegseth, I stand by what I said last time you were here. You were incompetent then, you're incompetent now, and you're the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to incompetence. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlemen. His hearing was supposed to be about defense spending and military readiness. Instead, it became a blunt and highly personal confrontation over war policy, executive decision-making, vaccine mandates, and whether the Pentagon under Secretary Pete Hegseth is being driven more by political messaging than strategic planning. And Representative Salud Carbajal made clear from the beginning that he intended to challenge both the administration's competence and its credibility. The exchange opened with a surprising cultural reference. Carbajal referenced Pulp Fiction and joked that the movie was not an accurate portrayal of the Bible, an apparent nod to Hegseth's earlier public comments and rhetorical style. But the humor disappeared almost immediately as Carbajal shifted into criticism of the administration's war with Iran. His central argument was straightforward. Americans are paying an enormous economic and financial cost for a war whose objectives remain unclear. Carbajal cited estimates suggesting the conflict was costing taxpayers roughly $1 billion per day while also driving up gas prices and broader living costs. He argued ordinary Americans were feeling those consequences directly at the pump and in household budgets. That framing matters politically because it translates foreign policy into domestic economic pain, something lawmakers increasingly do when discussing military conflicts. Historically, wars are often debated through national security, deterrence, strategic alliances, or battlefield outcomes. But Carbajal framed the conflict primarily through cost. Taxpayer spending, inflation, fuel prices, and economic pressure on working Americans. That approach reflects growing public fatigue after decades of prolonged overseas conflicts in Iraq, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. Hegseth responded by defending the operation as necessary to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. He framed the conflict through strategic necessity and national security doctrine. What price is acceptable to stop a hostile regime from acquiring nuclear capability? That exchange exposed one of the defining divides in modern American foreign policy. Supporters of aggressive deterrence argue, preventing nuclear proliferation justifies significant cost, military strength prevents larger future wars, and Iran poses a long-term strategic threat. Critics increasingly ask, what is the actual endgame? How much will it cost? And why should Americans bear another open-ended conflict without clearly defined objectives? Those concerns became even sharper when Carbajal pivoted toward Russia. He argued that easing sanctions on Russian oil effectively strengthened President Vladimir Putin economically while Russia continued its war in Ukraine. That criticism reflects a broader geopolitical concern currently shaping Washington. Whether shifting energy and sanctions policies for one conflict can unintentionally benefit adversaries in another. Hegseth largely avoided a direct yes or no answer and instead pivoted toward broader arguments about American energy dominance and Russian military weakness. That response itself became part of the conflict. Throughout the hearing, Carbajal repeatedly demanded concise, direct answers. Hegseth repeatedly responded with broader strategic framing and political messaging. That communication gap is increasingly common in modern congressional hearings. Lawmakers seek accountability through specificity, while cabinet officials often respond through narrative framing designed to defend broader administration policy. Then the hearing turned sharply toward military health policy. Carbajal challenged the administration's decision to end mandatory annual flu shots for service members, a requirement that had existed in various forms for decades inside the military. This section was politically significant because it connected a broader post-pandemic ideological shift into military readiness itself. Supporters of loosening vaccine mandates often argue, service members deserve greater bodily autonomy, informed adults should make personal medical choices, and trust in institutions was damaged by overly rigid pandemic-era policies. Critics argue military readiness depends on uniform health standards precisely because infectious disease can rapidly spread in close operational environments like ships, submarines, barracks, and deployed units. Carbajal clearly aligned with the second view. He argued the decision made the military less safe and less prepared, while warning that the administration appeared to be treating long-standing military health protocols as part of broader culture war politics. Hegseth defended the policy as restoring choice while still allowing commanders flexibility in high-risk operational settings. That distinction is important. The administration's broader approach appears to be shifting from centralized mandatory standards toward more decentralized command discretion and individual autonomy, a major philosophical change for an institution traditionally built around uniformity and standardization. But the hearing's most explosive moment came at the very end. Carbajal openly told Hegseth, "You were incompetent then, You're incompetent now, and you're the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to incompetence. That line immediately transformed the hearing from policy disagreement into personal condemnation. And moments like that matter politically because they reveal how intensely polarized national security debates have become. Historically, Congress often treated defense leadership with a higher degree of institutional deference, especially during active military conflicts. That norm has weakened dramatically in recent years. Increasingly, defense hearings resemble broader partisan combat. Loyalty versus oversight, strength versus recklessness, deterrence versus escalation, institutional discipline versus ideological governance. And that may be the larger significance of this exchange. Because beneath the insults and interruptions was a deeper unresolved issue facing the United States. Can modern military leadership remain strategically coherent when defense policy itself is increasingly absorbed into America's larger political and cultural wars? That question extends far beyond this hearing. Especially as Americans continue debating the costs of intervention, executive war powers, military readiness, global deterrence, and whether national security decisions are being shaped more by long-term strategy or short-term political identity. What do you think? Should defense leaders prioritize military flexibility and individual choice even if it changes long-standing military standards, or does national security require stricter centralized discipline regardless of political backlash? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you value long-form congressional analysis that goes beyond headlines and examines the strategy, politics, and institutional conflicts shaping Washington, subscribe to Capitol Oversight for more deep oversight coverage and hearing breakdowns.